In the context of filmmaking, auteur is a word used to describe a director who exerts a high level of control over a film. Auteurs often operate in other areas of the production as well, from screenwriting to editing to the musical score. Auteur theory examines the extent of authorship in all areas of the picture and the production context. Kevin Smith is an American independent filmmaker from Red Bank, New Jersey, whose directorial debut, 1994's Clerks, was a sleeper hit and has gained a cult following which surrounds Smith to this day. The subsequent films produced by Smith's production company, View Askew, are all contained within a shared continuity and canon, with multiple recurring characters and locations. Of the 8 live-action films in the so-called View Askew-universe, Smith has written, directed, edited, and acted in every single one, with the exception of Mallrats, which he did not edit. As a result, Smith can be viewed as the singular author behind the films. The purpose of this video essay is to answer this key question: what qualities combine to produce Kevin Smith as an indie auteur? My process for answering this will include a close evaluation of Clerks as the product of auteur, experimental indie filmmaking, before turning to the intertextual aspects of the View Askew-universe. Attention will also be paid to certain extra-textual ideas surrounding Smith, such as his off-screen persona and his interactions with his fandom. Clerks is a valuable place to start when discussing Smith, in part because it was his debut picture and the one with the lowest budget, but also because it exhibits a certain kind of indie flair that did not recur in his subsequent films. The production context around Clerks also adheres to the idea of the struggle around independent filmmaking. The production of the film cost $27,575. This was entirely self-financed, the result of Smith selling off his entire collection of comic books, as well as dipping into his college fund and maxing out multiple credit cards. The film was shot in black and white, which was pretty much an anachronism in the mid-90s. This was simply because monochrome film stock was cheaper than colour. In addition, the 2 stores that the action revolves around were real, actual businesses in the Red Bank area, where Smith himself worked. They even retain the names they have in real life. The shoot took place at the Quick Stop, while the real-life store was closed. Editing took place each day next door at the RST Video, which contributed to the rough style of the film. Clerks adopts a more experimental style than would be seen in Smith's later efforts. It is decidedly realist, with most scenes being simple exchanges between 2 or 3 characters. The bulk of the film consists of snappy, rapid-fire dialogues, recorded in long takes which are free of cuts. It can be argued alongside Chasing Amy as Smith's most dialogically dense movies, its most ostentatious action scene being a hockey match that takes place on the store's rooftop. The thematic elements of Clerks are also worth addressing. Produced in Smith's early 20s, the movie uses the backdrop of its stores to explore the ideas of what one is meant to do with their life after high school, or taking responsibility for your own contentment or dissatisfaction with life, as well as more subtle underlying themes such as the capitalistic exploitation of the working class.
I'm stuck in this pit, working for less than slave wages.
Smith was able to perfectly capture the profound boredom of the convenience store profession, while somehow also making a philosophical piece about the uncertainty of your 20s and your lot in life. Despite its tonal differences from the films that would come later, Clerks did establish certain hallmarks of Smith's style. For example, it exhibits an obsessive fixation on coarse language and descriptions of vulgar events. However, arguably the most influential component of Clerks is the introduction of Jay and Silent Bob, the brilliant comedic duo portrayed by Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith. The two appear prominently in every film in the franchise, the 2 brightest stars at the centre of the Askew-universe. Mallrats, released the subsequent year, exhibits close ties to the characters and events of Clerks, establishing that they take place in the same New Jersey town. Both films discuss the death of Julie Dwyer, a classmate and former friend of numerous characters, an event which directly impacts the plots.
Julie Dwyer died.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm serious.
Oh my God.
This embolism popped in her brain and she dropped dead. Right in my backstroke.
Julie Dwyer is also passively mentioned by Alyssa in Chasing Amy.
Another girl, Julie Dwyer,
The YMCA pool! Damn, you knew her too?
Mallrats is also notable for introducing many actors who would go on to star in many more Askew-universe movies. Recurring actors are another large hallmark of Smith's inter-film narrative weaving. Brian O'Halloran, who portrays Dante in Clerks, goes on to reappear in every film in the franchise, either reprising his initial role or playing one of Dante's countless identical relatives. The cinematic universe that Smith developed over 4 Askew-universe movies culminated in the long-awaited event, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. This was intended to be the final film in the franchise, before Smith followed up with the sequel to Clerks 5 years later. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back takes an even more radical shift in tone and content, becoming essentially a series of in-jokes between Smith and his fans. The film is tongue-in-cheek and unapologetically self-referential.
Why in God's name would I want to keep writing about characters whose
central preoccupation is weed and dick and fart jokes.
It is essentially a movie about the fact that the AIC exists. It uses its absurd new direction to satirise the culture of filmmaking in both the major Hollywood systems and the smaller indie studios, and lampoons Miramax specifically, the very company bankrolling the movie.
Miramax? I thought they only made classy pictures like The Piano or The Crying Game.
Yeah, well, once they made She's All That, everything went to hell.
Strikes Back features almost every actor in Smith's arsenal, mostly in a series of quick cameos. However, frequent collaborators Damon and Affleck appear as parodied versions of themselves, with ironic references to their career missteps.
Let's remember who talked to into doing this in the first place. I mean, talking me into dogma is one thing.
Jay and Silent Bob have become something of a multimedia phenomenon over the past few decades, not only as figures who transcend the boundaries between the films of Kevin Smith, but who also appear in media that he had no direct involvement in. Smith and Muse appear in character in several popular media, including Degrassi, The Flash, Scream, and countless music videos. But the larger View Askew universe is no stranger to multimedia narratives itself. This includes the Clerks animated series, and a line of comic books, the animated Jay and Silent Bob film, and the comics which continue the stories of the duo and bridge the narrative gaps between the movies. The Jay and Silent Bob movies stand out within Smith's body of work as flat-out recognition of his own cult status, coming off as love letters to his fans. Speaking of which, the dedicated fan following that Smith has gained over the course of his career has operated since 1995 and was heavily facilitated by the advent and popularisation of the internet. This was the year that the View Askew message boards were founded, which media scholar Tom Phillips claims has provided a dialogical, communicative platform for fans of Kevin Smith to define themselves as a collective group, or more frequently, a community. Smith interacts heavily with his fandom on an interpersonal level. He often includes messages and jokes within the credits, forgoing any semblance of formality and instead directing fans to the numerous channels he has instated to keep engagement going. A plethora of media centred around his public persona is available, including countless podcasts hosted by himself and his collaborators. A number of live Q&A recordings are available on DVD, showcasing the ongoing dialogue he maintains with his admirers. A wide variety of themed merchandise is available. All of these factors combine to produce a fandom with a strong sense of identity. For Phillips, this displays a repeated discourse of openness, the result of Smith's informal approach to the mediation of his public image. In summation, the writer-director-editor status behind Kevin Smith's movies qualify him as an auteur. His distinct cinematic style, which blends transmedia narratives with countercultural depictions of youth, have gained him a large and devoted fan base. Smith has then been able to use said fandom to communicate with his audience on a more involved level. Smith can therefore be considered a quintessential auteur figure in indie cinema.